You did what now? Ambassador Chen's voice cracked like a whip across the Galactic Council chamber, her eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. The silence that followed was so thick you could have cut it with a ceremonial Sycraxian butter knife. And trust me, those things are about as sharp as a politician's moral compass. The Vexillian representative, all 7 of his eye stalks quivering nervously, cleared what passed for his throat. We may have accidentally terminated a human offspring. Chen's laugh was as dry as the Martian deserts. Oh, is that all? Just a little infanticide between friends, eh? And here I thought you were going to tell me something serious. Her voice dripped with enough sarcasm to fill the Mariana Trench. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of nervous chittering, growling, and the occasional wet slap of a tentacle against a forehead, or nearest equivalent. The Galactic Council, in all its infinite wisdom, had royally screwed the proverbial pooch. Let me get this straight, Chen continued, pacing back and forth like a caged tiger with a particularly nasty hangnail. You invited humanity to join your little interstellar kumbaya circle. You said, "Hey, come on in. The water's fine. We're all friends here." And then, you go and kill a human child. The Arcturian delegate, a being that looked like a cross between a sea anemone and a disco ball, pulsed apologetically. It was an unfortunate incident during the welcoming ceremony. The child wandered into the path of the Gravix Honor Guard's processional dance. The, stomping was quite thorough. Chen pinched the bridge of her nose, a gesture that had become all too familiar since she'd taken this godforsaken job. Thorough, right. Because that makes it all better. Tell me, did you at least try to stop the thorough stomping of a 5-year-old? The Gravix representative, a hulking mass of crystalline shards, chimed in with a sound like breaking glass. Our honor guard's dance is sacred and cannot be interrupted. To do so would bring great shame upon our people. Oh well, we wouldn't want to bring shame upon your people. Now would we? Chen's voice could have frozen helium. I mean, accidental child, murder is one thing, but interrupting a dance. Perish the thought. The Vexillian's eye stalks drooped. We did send a very nice fruit basket to the family. Chen's laugh was sharp enough to cut diamonds. A fruit basket. How quaint. I'm sure that'll go over great with the grieving parents. Sorry we pulverized your kid. Here's a pineapple. She took a deep breath, composing herself. When she spoke again, her voice was eerily calm. You know, it's funny. When humanity first joined this council, we thought we were entering a new age of peace and cooperation. We were so excited to be part of the galactic community. But now, I'm starting to think we should have stayed in our own little corner of the universe. The Arcturian pulsed again, this time with a sickly green light. Surely, Ambassador, you don't mean to suggest that humanity would retaliate? Shen's smile was all teeth. Retaliate? Oh, no. That would be uncivilized, wouldn't it? We're not going to retaliate. We're going to educate. She tapped a small device on her wrist, and suddenly the chamber's holographic display came to life. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, and surrounded by a swarm of sleek, menacing ships that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted other beings, Chen said, her voice dripping with folk sweetness. Allow me to introduce you to humanity's other gift to the galactic community. We call it the Ghost Fleet. The assembled aliens gasped, chirped, and in some cases involuntarily released bodily fluids. You see, Chen continued, strolling around the chamber like she was giving a tour of a museum, when we joined your little club, we may have neglected to mention a few things, like the fact that we've had faster than light travel for, about 1,000 years now. The Vexillian's eye stalks went rigid with shock. But that's impossible. Your civilization only achieved spaceflight a few centuries ago. Chen's laugh was like bells tinkling over a graveyard. Oh, sweetie, that's what we wanted you to think. We're a cautious bunch, us humans. We like to check out the neighborhood before we start inviting the neighbors over for barbecue. She gestured to the holographic display where the ghost fleet hung in silent, terrifying splendor. We've been watching you lot for a long, long time, and let me tell you, what we saw didn't exactly fill us with warm, fuzzy feelings. So we kept our little secret, just in case. The Gravix representative's crystals clinked together nervously. In case of what, precisely? Chen's smile was sharp enough to draw blood. In case of this, my crystalline friend. In case we needed to remind the galaxy that humanity isn't just some quaint little species you can push around. We're not here to be your punching bag, or your stomping ground, or your whatever the hell you thought we were. She turned to address the entire council, her voice ringing out clear and cold. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to apologize, properly, to the family of the child you murdered. You're going to implement serious reforms to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. And you're going to do it all with a smile on your faces, or whatever passes for a face, in your respective species. The Arcturian pulsed frantically. And if we refuse? Chen's laugh was like ice cracking. Oh, I was hoping someone would ask that. You see those ships out there? They're not just for show. Each one of them carries enough firepower to turn a planet into a very pretty asteroid field. And they're crewed by some very angry humans who are just itching for an excuse to test out their toys. She leaned in close to the Arcturian, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. So, go ahead. Refuse. I dare you. The silence that followed was so profound, you could have heard a cork drop. Chen straightened up, smoothing down her perfectly pressed uniform. Now then, shall we discuss the terms of your, let's call it cooperation? Admiral Zayu stood on the bridge of the HS Nemesis, flagship of the Ghost Fleet, watching the holographic display of the Galactic Council chamber with a mixture of amusement and disgust. Chen's really laying it on thick, isn't she? His XO, Commander Rodriguez, snorted. Can you blame her? Those idiots killed a kid. If it were up to me, we'd be glassing their homeworlds right now. Zayu shook his head. That's why it's not up to you, Maria. We're here to make a point, not start an interstellar war. With all due respect, sir, Rodriguez said, her voice tight. They started this war when they killed one of our own. Zayu turned to face her, his expression softening. I know how you feel. Hell, every person on this ship, in this entire fleet, feels the same way. But we can't let our anger cloud our judgment. That's what separates us from them. He gestured to the holographic display, where Chen was still dressing down the council. Look at them. They're terrified. They thought they were the big fish in the pond, and now they've realized they're swimming with sharks. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. And we're the sharks in this metaphor. Zayu's laugh was grim. Oh no, Commander. We're much worse than sharks. We're humans. He turned back to the viewport, gazing out at the vast expanse of space and the thousands of ships that made up the Ghost Fleet, each one a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the burning desire to explore, and if necessary, conquer the stars. You know, Zayu mused, I almost feel sorry for them. They have no idea what they've awakened. Rodriguez snorted. Yeah, my heart bleeds for the child. Killers. Zhao shot her a look. I'm serious, Maria. Think about it. For 1,000 years, we've been out here, watching, waiting, preparing. We've seen empires rise and fall. We've charted every star, every planet, every asteroid in this sector of the galaxy. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their deepest fears, and greatest ambitions. He paused, his eyes distant. And all that time, do you know what we never found? Rodriguez shook her head. Anyone like us, Zayu said softly. Oh, There are species out there with technology that rivals ours. Some even surpass us in certain areas. But none of them have our drive, our curiosity, our sheer bloody-minded determination to push beyond our limits. He gestured to the holographic display again. Look at them. They've had interstellar travel for millennia, and what have they done with it? Formed a bureaucratic nightmare of a council that spends more time arguing about trade regulations than exploring the wonders of the universe. Rodriguez frowned. So what are you saying, sir? That we should pity them? Zhao shook his head. Not pity. Understand. They're like children playing with matches, not realizing they're sitting on a powder keg. And we're the adults who've just walked into the room. He turned to face his exo, his expression grave. Our job isn't just to avenge that poor child, Maria. It's to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. We need to guide them, teach them, and yes, if necessary, discipline them. Rodriguez's eyes widened. You're talking about what? Taking over the council? Zhao's smile was razor thin. I prefer to think of it as aggressive mentoring. Just then, a junior officer approached, saluting crisply. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Chen. She says the council is ready to negotiate. Zhao nodded. Very good. Tell the ambassador we'll be joining her shortly. He turned back to Rodriguez. Well, Commander, shall we go educate some aliens? Rodriguez grinned, a predatory gleam in her eye. After you, sir. I can't wait to see their faces when they realize the primitive humans have been running circles around them for centuries. As they made their way to the transport bay, Zhao couldn't help but chuckle. You know, Maria, I almost feel bad for pulling the rug out from under them like this. Almost. Rodriguez snorted. Yeah, I'm sure the diplomatic corps will lose a lot of sleep over it. Right after they finish dancing on the graves of every alien who thought it was a good idea to mess with humanity. The transport pod hummed to life, preparing to whisk them down to the council chamber. As the doors closed, Zhao's expression turned serious. Remember, Commander, we're not here for revenge. We're here to reshape the galaxy. Rodriguez nodded, her own expression matching his. Understood, sir. But if we happen to scare the living daylights out of a few alien diplomats along the way. Zhao's grin was positively wolfish. Well, that's just a bonus, isn't it? The Galactic Council chamber was a study in controlled chaos. Delegates from 100 different species huddled in groups, their voices a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and guttural rumbles. The air was thick with tension and the acrid smell of alien fear. Pheromones. In the center of it all stood Ambassador Chen, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth as she watched the pandemonium unfold. She caught sight of Admiral Zhao and Commander Rodriguez as they entered, and her smile widened into something that could almost be called predatory. Ah, gentlemen, she called out, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. So glad you could join us. The council was just discussing the terms of our continued cooperation. The Vexillian representative, his eye stalks now drooping so low they almost touched the floor, let out a sound that might have been a whimper. Ambassador, surely there's no need for military involvement. We are all reasonable beings here. Shen's laugh was like broken glass. Oh, my dear Vexillian friend, if you were all reasonable beings, we wouldn't be in this mess. Now would we? She turned to Zhao, her expression hardening. Admiral, perhaps you'd like to explain to our esteemed colleagues exactly what Earth's position is on this matter. Zhao stepped forward, his uniform crisp and immaculate, every inch the picture of military precision. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost gentle, and all the more terrifying for it. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted beings, he began, his eyes sweeping the room. Let me be clear. Earth is not here to conquer you. We're not here to destroy your worlds or subjugate your people. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the chamber, only to be cut short by Zio's next words. "We're here to save you from yourselves." The Arcturian delegate pulsed with confusion. I don't understand. Save us from what?" Zhao's smile was cold. "From your own complacency, your own short-sightedness, your own stupidity." He began to pace, his hands clasped behind his back. "For 1,000 years, humanity has watched this council. We've seen you bicker and squabble over the tiniest scraps of territory while entire galaxies went unexplored. We've watched you stagnate, content to rest on the laurels of technologies developed eons ago." The Gravix representatives' crystals clinked together angrily. "How dare you? Our civilization has stood for millions of years." Zio rounded on him, his voice sharp. "Stood, yes. But have you grown? Have you pushed the boundaries of what's possible? Have you looked up at the stars and wondered what secrets they hold?" He shook his head, his disgust evident. "No, you've been too busy playing your petty political games. Too busy worrying about who gets to be the big fish in your very small pond." Chen stepped forward, her voice carrying a hint of steel beneath its diplomatic veneer. What the Admiral is trying to say, in his own inimitable way, is that humanity sees great potential in this council, potential that's been squandered for far too long. Rodriguez, who had been silently observing until now, chimed in. "You killed a child. And your response was to send a fruit basket." Her voice dripped with contempt. "If that doesn't scream, we need adult supervision, I don't know what does." The chamber erupted into chaos again, delegates shouting and gesticulating wildly. Zio let it continue for a moment before raising his hand. The silence that fell was immediate and absolute. "Here's how this is going to work," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "Earth is taking control of the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The uproar that followed was deafening, but Zhao pressed on, his voice rising above the din. "This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact." He gestured to the holographic display where the Ghost Fleet still hung in silent, terrifying splendor. "We have the means to enforce our will, but we'd rather not use them. We're offering you a choice. Evolve or become irrelevant." Chen stepped forward again, her diplomatic training kicking in to smooth over Zhao's blunt pronouncement. "What the Admiral means is that Earth is proposing a new structure for the Council, one that emphasizes exploration, scientific advancement, and genuine cooperation between species." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Of course, if any of you feel that you can't abide by these new terms, you're welcome to leave the Council. We won't stop you. But know this, the galaxy is changing. The old ways are dying. You can either be part of the future or a footnote in history." The chamber fell silent, the weight of Chen's words hanging heavy in the air. It was the Vexillian who finally broke the silence, his voice trembling slightly. And what of the child, the one who died?" For the first time since this whole debacle began, Chen's expression softened. "Ah, yes. Little Emily Watson. I'm glad you asked about her because she's the reason we're all here today." She tapped her wrist device and the holographic display changed. Instead of the Ghost Fleet, it now showed the image of a smiling human girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. "This," Chen said, her voice quietly intense, "is Emily. She was 5 years old. She loved butterflies, strawberry ice cream, and wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up." Her voice hardened. "And now she never will, because your sacred dance was more important than a child's life." The Gravix representative's crystals dimmed with what might have been shame. We did not mean." "Save it," Rodriguez cut in, her voice sharp. "Your intentions don't matter. Your traditions don't matter. What matters is that a little girl is dead because you couldn't be bothered to stop dancing for 5 seconds. Zio stepped forward, his expression grave. "Emily Watson will be the last child to die because of this council's incompetence. From this day forward, her name will be a reminder of why we're here, of why humanity has decided to take a more. Of why humanity has decided to take a more in galactic affairs. He gestured to the holographic image of Emily. Look at her. Really look. This is who you killed. This is the price of your complacency, your arrogance, your belief that your ways were the only ways. The chamber was silent, every alien eye or sensory organ fixed on the smiling face of Emily Watson. Chen's voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the room. We're going to build a memorial for Emily, right here in the heart of the council chamber. Every time you come here to debate, to argue, to make decisions that affect billions of lives across the galaxy, you'll see her face. You'll remember why we're here, why things had to change. She paused, letting her words sink in. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start to understand what it means to be truly civilized. The Arcturian pulsed with a sickly light. And what of us? What is to become of the current council members? Zio's smile was thin. That, my friends, is entirely up to you. Those of you who are willing to learn, to grow, to embrace a new way of thinking. You'll be welcome to stay, to help us build a better future for all species. His expression hardened. But those of you who cling to the old ways, who value your precious traditions over the lives of innocents, well, he gestured to the viewport where the ghost fleet still hung in silent menace. I'm sure we can find you a nice, quiet corner of the galaxy to retire to, somewhere far, far away from anyone you might hurt. Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice carrying a hint of challenge. So what's it going to be? Are you ready to join us in the 25th century, or do you want to keep playing in the cosmic kiddie pool? The chamber erupted into a flurry of whispered conversations, clicks and chirps. Species that had been at each other's throats for millennia were now huddled together, united in their fear, and perhaps a glimmer of hope. Chen watched it all with a mixture of satisfaction and weariness. She caught Zio's eye and gave a small nod. He returned it, understanding passing between them without a word. This was just the beginning. The real work, the hard work, was still to come. Reshaping a galaxy wouldn't be easy. There would be resistance, setbacks, maybe even violence. But as Chen looked at the holographic image of Emily Watson, still smiling her gap-toothed smile, she knew it would be worth it. For Emily, for every child who dreamed of the stars, for the future of humanity and every sentient species in the galaxy. The old Galactic Council was dead. Long live the new council, and may the stars tremble at what was to come. Epilogue. 5 years later, the new Galactic Council chamber was a far cry from the stuffy, antiquated hall of just a few years ago. Gone were the ornate thrones and pompous decorations. In their place stood sleek, efficient workstations, each equipped with the latest in holographic technology. At the center of it all, bathed in soft light, stood a statue of a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. The plaque at its base read simply, Emily Watson, never again. Ambassador Chen, now Supreme Coordinator of the Galactic Union. The Council had undergone a bit of rebranding, stood before the assembled delegates. Her hair had a few more strands of gray, and the lines around her eyes had deepened, but her gaze was as sharp as ever. My friends, she began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber 5 years ago. We stood at a crossroads. We faced a choice between stagnation and progress, between fear and hope. Today, I am proud to say that we chose wisely. She gestured to the holographic displays that surrounded the room, each showing images of incredible achievements. Vast space stations being constructed in distant star systems, new species making first contact, breakthrough technologies that were revolutionizing life across the galaxy. In just 5 years, we have accomplished more than the old council did in a millennium. We have pushed the boundaries of science, explored uncharted regions of space, and forged bonds between species that once thought themselves irreconcilably different. The Vixillian representative, his eye stalks now held high with pride, chimed in, and let us not forget the Galactic Education Initiative. Thanks to humanity's guidance, we have established schools and universities on 1,000 worlds. The next generation will grow up knowing the wonders of the universe and the responsibilities that come with that knowledge. Shen nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. Indeed, education has been key to our success, but so has humility. We've all had to learn, to grow, to challenge our preconceptions, humanity included. She turned to look at the statue of Emily. We carry our mistakes with us, not as a burden, but as a reminder of why we do what we do, of the price of complacency, and the value of every single life in this vast, beautiful universe. The graphics representative, his crystals shimmering with emotion, spoke up. We owe humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid. You showed us the error of our ways, yes, but more than that. You showed us how to be better, how to strive for something greater than ourselves. Shen's smile widened. Oh, I don't know about that. I'd say you're all doing a pretty good job of repaying that debt. Every new discovery, every peaceful resolution to an old conflict, every child who looks up at the stars with wonder instead of fear. That's payment enough. She turned back to address the entire chamber. We've come a long way, my friends, but our journey is far from over. The universe is vast, and there are still so many mysteries to unravel, so many wonders to discover. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and challenge. So, what do you say? Are you ready for another 5 years of turning the impossible into reality? Of pushing the boundaries of what's possible? Of showing the universe what we can accomplish when we work together? The chamber erupted into cheers, a cacophony of voices, clicks, whistles, and other sounds of affirmation from 100 different species. Chen let it wash over her, feeling a sense of pride and purpose that she never could have imagined when she first took this job. As the cheers died down, she caught sight of Admiral Zhao and Commander Rodriguez, now Fleet Admiral and Vice Admiral, respectively, standing at the back of the chamber. They gave her a small nod, which she returned. They had done it. They had taken a tragedy and turned it into a catalyst for change. They had reshaped the galaxy, not through force, but through determination, wisdom, and an unyielding belief in the potential of all sentient beings. Shen turned back to the assembled delegates, her voice ringing out clear and strong. Then let's get to work. We've got a universe to explore, and I, for one, can't wait to see what we'll find out there. As the chamber burst into activity, delegates hurrying to their stations with newfound purpose and enthusiasm, Chen allowed herself one last look at Emily's statue. The girl's smile seemed a little brighter now, a little more real. We did it, kid, Chen whispered. We made it count, and we're just getting started. With that, she strode off to join her colleagues. There was work to be done, a galaxy to run, and endless possibilities stretching out before them like a cosmic highway just waiting to be explored. The stars trembled all right, but not with fear, with anticipation. The age of humanity had begun, and the universe would never be the same again.